Hi, everyone. This is Nina Bosky, and this is the LifeBites podcast. With me is Daryl Anka. He joins me. He's part mystic, part scientist, part scientific, you would say, part filmmaker, part channeler of Bashar. And it's in Arabic, it means messenger. And he is with us today to talk about how you really create in life. And I had the pleasure of meeting him several times at our ATL conference. And ATL is the Association of Transformational Leaders. And many of you have either watched The Secret or know something about the law of attraction. You might even be familiar with his work. Or a lot of people follow Esther and Abraham Hicks. What I love about what Daryl talks about and how he breaks it down is he gives it to us in a way that we can all understand it. And I think that this information needs to get out there more and more of how we actually create. So with that said, welcome to the show, Daryl.
Thank you, Nina. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. And like I said before, you really do have a wonderful way of creating a kind of like a toolkit for us, not so much a timeline, but almost the how-to. And so I remember at ATL you were talking about the 11 areas of excitement in order to create. And I think that might be a really great way for us to start. How does somebody create if they're wanting to create a goal or something small or big in their life?
Well, the idea fundamentally is an explanation and a practical application of the concept that you hear a lot in metaphysical circles, which is act on your passion or follow your bliss. You often hear this without any real explanation or understanding of why that actually works. It sounds very nice on the surface, but I think being that we're used to applying things in our physical reality to get an effect, we really need, I think, to understand what the principles are behind that concept. And it sort of has been broken down into a type of instruction manual for explaining why this actually does have an effect in our lives. And it starts with a 3-part formula. And that formula is to take action on whatever it is contains the most excitement at any given moment, to act on your passion as best as you possibly can. That's the second part, acting on it until you can act on it no further. And the third part of that formula is to act on it with no insistence and no assumption about what the outcome is supposed to look like. So passion and excitement fundamentally is our physical body's translation, shall we say, of the frequency of energy that represents our true essential self, our core vibration, our signature frequency. So when we are willing to take action on things that contain the highest amount of passion or excitement in our lives, no matter what they are, we're aligning with that energy. We're letting it function like a compass needle, pointing us directly to our magnetic north. And by acting on it to the best of our ability, until we can take it no further, we're letting it play through and getting to the next crossroad where we look for the next option that contains more excitement, even just a little bit more excitement than any other option. And these don't have to be big things. They can be small steps, and it will eventually grow into something larger. But when we talk about taking action on things that excite you, we can even be talking about things that are normal in everyone's life on a day-to-day basis. Just looking for that option that is more attractive, a little bit more exciting than any other normal option, and taking action on that one first starts to open up what we call the toolkit for excitement, because it does come as a complete kit, and it contains a certain number of tools or effects that will start to activate more consciously in your life. So the three-part formula, number one, acting on your passion. Number two, doing it to the best you're able till you can do it no further. And number three, doing that action with absolutely no insistence or assumption as to where that's supposed to lead you or what's supposed to come to fruition, activates the tools, which basically are as follows. The first one is your passion becomes the driving engine in your life. It moves you through life. You get so excited you can't wait to get up and act on whatever it is that day that contains that excitement and that passion for you. So it drives you through life. The second tool is basically called synchronicity, which a lot of people understand to some degree, but it really is the organizing principle of life. In other words, when something comes to you that contains more excitement than anything else, the reason that's coming to you first is because that's the first thing you actually need to act on. And when you can take that no further, the next thing that contains more excitement is the next thing that you need to take action on. And synchronicity, as the organizing principle, is actually delivering these things to you by showing you what excites you next in the order in which you actually need to do them, because the idea is not so much the form in which it comes, but to follow that thread of excitement where it leads.
So here's an interesting one for you, though, is let's say you follow the excitement and then something drops off or it kind of dies down for a moment. That's where people get derailed and think maybe it's not happening. What would you say when that happens?
Well, that's what I was mentioning, is you take it as far as you can until you can take it no further. Either there will not be an opportunity to act on it any further, or the excitement will wane at that point. But that's your signal to look for the next thing that contains more excitement than any other choice. It does not even have to appear to be connected to what you were just doing. It's the thread of excitement that it contains that is the path to follow, not the form in which it comes. Because excitement has to reach you in whatever way it can. It's attempting to follow what the third tool is, which is the path of least resistance. And sometimes a certain situation will be an easier way for excitement to find you, in a sense, than perhaps the next thing you think should be the logical step. It may need to take something unexpected to get you to move in the direction you need to move in so that what really needs to happen can happen. Because very often our physical minds get in the way and we think, well, I did this and now it should lead to this and it should lead to that. That's not necessarily the path that you really need to follow. So that's what we're saying is the synchronicity of what excites you at the next moment when the first thing is done, when you can't follow it anymore, when the excitement is no longer in the first thing. The next thing that comes up with more excitement than any other option, it's the excitement that's telling you that this is the next thing to do, and it's telling you that it is connected to the first thing because of the excitement, even though it may not look like it's connected to the last thing because of how it looks.
So so for example, if I hear you correctly, let's say somebody's going on a job interview and they go on several interviews, everything looks excited, they're like, oh my gosh, I hope I get this job, and then they don't hear anything, but they're really excited about maybe going away for the weekend or doing something completely different. That's where their excitement is, to keep following that, even though they're not really related.
Yes, because they are related because of the excitement. So in other words, for example, to use your example, let's say they have acted to the best that they can on the job that excites them, and right now they're not getting any feedback, so there's nothing else they can do. Now they look around and, like you said, okay, maybe going away for the weekend, that's the most exciting thing I absolutely have the ability to do something about at the moment, since I cannot do anything about the first one. How do you know that the organizing principle isn't going to bring you some synchronistic encounter on that vacation that actually will help you get the job? You never know. And I think that's the first thing that people have to understand is we don't know what the path of least resistance actually needs to look like. We think we do, but we really more often than not have no idea how we actually need to wind up where we need to wind up. So by following the thread of excitement, you don't have to necessarily focus on the details. You don't have to make those mental connections yourself necessarily. synchronicity will bring the situation or the opportunity to you, and it will be the next thing you need, even though you couldn't see how those things could possibly be related. You'll find out that they are when you continue to act on them. Eventually you will see how one thing leads to another, which is another tool of the kit of excitement. It is the path that connects you to all expressions of your excitement and shows you how they're all related and connected if you just keep following that path. So you've got the driving engine, you've got the organizing principle of synchronicity, you've got the path of least resistance, which makes it effortless by just continuing to follow that excitement. You've got the path that connects you to all expressions of excitement, no matter how they look. It shows you how they're interrelated. It also gives you whatever support you need in whatever form you need it to continue to act on your excitement. It also brings you the reflective mirror, so to speak, that reveals anything in your belief system that might be out of alignment with your excitement, so you can process that, identify it, let it go, and add that energy to your excitement and build your acceleration and build your momentum.
So before you go on, because you're saying such good stuff here, so part of it is allowing the contrast, if it comes up, that is not exactly what you want, to be able to reflect on it and to be able to say, oh, wow, I'd rather have this than that. It's there to actually help you.
Yes, because anything that you attract is there for a reason. So even if you attract something you don't prefer, what you have to know is it's got to be there for a reason that serves you. And if you stay in that state and know that that's true, you will be able to use it in a positive way that will actually accelerate you in the direction you need to go. And another important point is, more than the idea that it's something you want, it's really more productive to focus on these things as what it is you actually need. Because many times our egos will make up a whole bunch of stuff that we think we want and that we think actually will serve us. And in many cases, what we want is not necessarily aligned with what we truly need to be fulfilled. So it's important for us to have discernment, to know the difference between when what we want does not necessarily align with what we need.
Okay, that's a really important point too. So how does somebody, discern, as you said, between want and need? Because sometimes people think that a want is a need, and they don't know the difference.
They sometimes do, and that's one of the reasons that what kind of goes hand in hand with this concept of the kit of excitement is a list of what the basic neutral needs in life actually are. And most of these are relatively obvious, but they really have to do with feeling like a fulfilled person, and they really have to do with just allowing you to live. So, in other words, very, very obviously, simply, air is a fundamental need. You need to breathe. Water is a fundamental need. Food is a fundamental need. Sleep is a fundamental need. And when you go down the list in the 7 needs, what you finally get to are things like expression of your purpose, connection to others. Those are the basic things we need in order to keep on living a fulfilled life. So anytime someone has confusion about the difference between a need and a want, they can kind of check the want against the list of basic needs and see if it actually is on that list. So, in other words, somebody might say, well, I want a new car, and that's fine. But the idea is that what you need is some way to continue, some way to give you the ability to continue to act on your excitement. Now, maybe that might be a car, but it might be something else. So the point of telling the difference between a want and a need is, if you insist on a want that's not really something you need at that moment, you can actually be blocking something coming to you that you actually need to be able to continue to act on your excitement.
So let's say if the needs are like air, water, sleep, I think you said food before, shelter, relationship, and purpose, right, or connectedness, right?
Yeah, expressed connecting, relationship, and expression of your purpose, fulfillment of who you are as a unique being. Those are basically the needs. And everything that comes to you in life that actually gives you fulfillment, in some way, shape, or form, is connected to one of those needs. So a lot of people will want things that are not necessarily expressions of those needs. They can be sometimes, but the whole point of allowing synchronicity to be the organizing principle is that if you truly do need something that might be similar to what you have said you want, if you allow synchronicity to function and keep following your passion, that thing, that opportunity to have that thing will come to you because it actually fulfills a need. If it doesn't come to you, it's not fulfilling a need. You don't need it at that moment. It's about trusting the way your life unfolds and the rate and timing at which things come into your life when you do, in fact, activate this kit of excitement, this toolkit, by acting on your passion with no insistence on what the outcome should look like. Many people think that holding a vision of a particular outcome is actually what's going to make it happen. It's actually just the opposite, because, again, we're assuming that we've been capable of imagining what the best possible outcome can be. And in most cases, we're not capable of understanding that. We can use visualization as a tool to get us excited about the possibility of an ideal outcome. But actually insisting on the picture we've created in our minds is actually a limitation to what our higher minds could bring us that might actually be even better.
Wow. So you've said couple of really good points here. You use the word trust, and I think that's the key in terms of utilizing this toolkit.
It is, because the one thing that people sometimes think is that they have to learn to trust. Nobody has to learn to trust. It's an innate ability we all have. The issue isn't learning to trust. And when people say, I'm doubting myself, they're not lacking trust. They're simply trusting in something that they don't prefer, trusting in something that's out of alignment with who they really are, who they prefer to be, and what they really need. So we never lack trust. The issue is, what are we putting our trust in?
Wow, that's deep. I love what you just said. I just, that concept alone, that we are trusting, it's a matter of what are we trusting in, which leads me to my next question, which a lot of people have. Oh, I'd love to follow my bliss. I have a purpose, but I'm not going to leave my day job to be able to do that because I won't be able to afford it. What do you say to that?
Well, okay, there are several aspects to that. Number one, first and foremost, your excitement can support you, but it's designed to do that. But if you don't believe it can, it would not be wise to leave the job you believe can support you until you take enough actions on your excitement and let it demonstrate to you that it can support you. So the process by which you leave something that you're not excited about but believe you need for support, and getting to the point where you can allow your excitement to demonstrate that it can support you in life, is a process that's up to each individual to decide for themselves how short or how long or how comfortable or uncomfortable or how challenging that process of shifting from one to the other should be. That's really up to every individual to decide for themselves. All I'm saying is, at least give yourself a chance by acting on your highest excitement when you can, when you feel comfortable doing so, and at least give it a chance to start showing you that it can support you. And if you keep doing that, you'll start getting enough examples coming in, again, through synchronicity, to show you that you will actually be capable of being supported by the thing that you're passionate about. Now, before I even knew a lot of these principles, this is just who I am. I have always only chosen to do the things that I'm really excited to do. And I've been doing this now in my life for a long time. I'm 66, and I've been working, in a sense, since I was in my late teens, early 20s. I have always chosen things that are representative of what excites me. They have always supported me. They have never not supported me in whatever way I need to be supported. Sometimes that support will come in the form of money, but another aspect of this is people have to kind of loosen their definition of abundance and support, because money may be one valid way that it is represented on our planet, but there are other forms of abundance. Somebody giving you something is a form of abundance. Synchronicity, bringing you the information you need when you need it, is another form of abundance. So many people can be supported and allowed to continue to act on their excitement in whatever way they need to, but they have to also allow all the forms of abundance to come to them in order to be able to do that. So when people focus only on one form and insist that that has to be the form, like money, then they may actually, again, be blocking all of the different doorways through which other forms of abundance could come that would allow them to actually do what they need to do when they need to do it. So, again, it's that insistence that causes resistance. And they have to relax their definitions to allow the machine to work for them instead of thinking they know best about how it's supposed to work. The machine already works. They just have to allow it to work by understanding the principles on which it's based, which is what this instruction manual is all about.
So we have the driving engine, which is your excitement, your passion, and following that. Then we go into synchronicities, and then there is basically non-assistance that it has to go a certain way. And then you're connected to it. It'll show itself to you. What's next?
Well, okay, yes. The driving engine, the organizing principle of synchronicity, the path of least resistance, as we said, the path that connects you to all expressions of your excitement, the reflective mirror that reveals to you anything that's out of alignment, so you can let it go and bring it back into alignment, the idea that you get the support you need in whatever form you need it by relaxing your definitions of abundance. And you have to know that this is a complete kit. It actually leaves nothing relevant out. It knows what you need. It is going to always bring you what you need if you don't get in the way with definitions that are out of alignment. The final part of this particular instruction manual is whatever results from the actions you took on your excitement needs to be there. So it's about staying in a positive state, giving a positive meaning to what's there, even if you recognize objectively and neutrally that what manifested isn't what you prefer. You have to know that that manifested for a positive reason, and that if you stay in a positive state and know that there's a positive reason why it's there, you can use it in a positive way and get a beneficial and positive effect out of it. Many times people will attract something that may not be what they prefer, but they can use it in a way that they do prefer. For example, they can even just say simply, I have attracted something that I don't prefer to give me a better understanding by comparison of what I do prefer. So attracting what I didn't prefer gave me clarity on what I did prefer, and that is how you use what you don't prefer in a way that you prefer to use it.
Okay.
And that makes all the difference in the effect that you experience in your life and the benefit that comes to you by using everything that way.
So one of the things that you are saying quite a bit is the word prefer, and I love that because it has a sense of neutrality in its tone. Is that on purpose?
Yeah, that's the point. When we say we want and we get insistent about wanting, we're putting a kind of charge on that in many cases actually does the opposite. First of all, the thing to understand is that everything happens because of the vibrational frequency state that you're in. It's the state that generates your experience. So when you want something very strongly a lot of times, what people don't quite understand is wanting is a state unto itself, and wanting is not having. If you want something and stay in the state of wanting, that's all you get is wanting. It's not actually manifesting. So the idea is to stay in a neutral state of preference because everything is valid, positive and negative. They all have the ability to create valid experiences, valid lessons. And therefore, when you allow even what you don't prefer to be valid to be there and show up in your life because there must be a positive reason for it, then you get to choose. You're in the driver's seat, and you get to choose what you prefer without invalidating what you don't, which doesn't put that extra charge on it that actually connects you to the negative thing you don't prefer.
Got it.
Allowing everything to be equal and valid and balanced so that you can simply choose what you prefer without knowing that you're creating some sort of a energetic attachment and a judgment to what you don't prefer.
So for somebody that is, let's say, dating and wanting to find and opening themselves up to love, they go on dates, let's say it's third date, and all of a sudden it just did not work out. So for you, what you're saying is don't go to the negative like, oh, well, all dates aren't going to work out. There's never going to be love for me. It's more of it's showing up in your life for a reason and to open.
So you can hone your skill to recognize the person who is vibrationally compatible or incompatible with you faster and faster and faster, so you don't have to spend an excess amount of time going through a process with someone who simply you could have recognized earlier was vibrationally incompatible with you.
Great. Okay, so I think this is wonderful. Is there anything else in this toolkit that we have to remember?
That is really the entire instruction manual and kit. But the thing that's really important to understand is that it already works automatically. The idea of understanding this kit and applying it more consciously is that it allows you to experience the machine working in a beneficial and positive way for you instead of a negative way. Because synchronicity always works, but it can also work negatively and positively. So understanding how reality is created by us, how we can use this toolkit more consciously, will allow you to understand how to simply experience the machine in a beneficial way rather than a not beneficial way.
And Daryl, if they want to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you? What's the best way for know more about you and your work?
There are several ways. I mean, first of all, and during the channeling that I've done, they can access all that information at bashar.org, BASHAR.org. If they want to know anything about what I'm doing in terms of my film career, they can go to ziafilms.com, that's ZIAFILMS.com, or even DarylAnka.com.
So they can find you several places, and I have to say, you're really living what you talk about because you're certainly not one-dimensional, having the film career, having the channeling career, having just the ability to kind of sum up some of these concepts that for a lot of people are just opening up. They know the secret, but they don't know past the secret, and I think this is a really great next step for people to really look at.
Yeah, and the thing about the secret, too, is, again, the deeper you get into this, you have a clearer understanding of the principles behind it. And, one of the things that now is very popular is the idea of the law of attraction. And I'm not going to say that what people have understood about it is incorrect. It's not. You do have to be a certain vibration to attract something of a similar vibration. But I think where people kind of have not quite understood the depth of what that means is, as I said in the beginning, we're all giving off a particular signature frequency. We are already, in essence, attracting what we need. It's not that you have to learn to attract what you need. We're attracting it, but we may be holding it at bay because of the negative definitions that are out of alignment with us. So the law of attraction is not so much learning to attract, it's learning to stop holding things back that are attempting to get to you because you're already attracting them with your pure frequency to begin with.
That is deep. I love it. I love it. It's the next step, and I think you're going to be part of our next step in terms of people really getting a lot of this information because we are vibrational beings, and I think we get caught up in the fact that we're these physical human beings instead of spiritual beings having a human experience. So thank you so much for being with us today.
My My pleasure. Thank you so much again for providing the opportunity to share these ideas. I appreciate it very much.
All right. You're listening to Life Bites, and my guest has been Darryl Anka.